What's up, gamers and gamettes? I consider myself somewhat of a Micro Four Thirds enthusiast, as in I have multiple Micro Four Thirds cameras and quite a few Micro Four Thirds lenses. However, recently I turned to the dark side and got one of these. A speed booster, specifically the Viltrox EF-M2II. This that's on this camera right now is technically an EF-M1, which is just the regular electronic adapter, because the speed booster is on the camera that you're seeing right now, but ignore that. So I got a speed booster mostly because I wanted a fast standard zoom. And when I say a fast standard zoom, I mean around an f2 or an f1.7, because I got tired of carrying around multiple primes, specifically my 25mm f1.7 and my 42.5mm f1.7. So in order to cover that range, the closest equivalent I could get was around a 17-50, which is close to a 12-32 f2.8. But again, I wanted that f2 or lower. So that left a few options once I got the speed booster, because that can bring that aperture down or more open. So I was looking at the Sigma 17-15 f2.8, specifically the optically stabilized version, which I think is the Sigma DC HSM OS. The lens is on the camera right now. There's way too many letters, but the most important part is that it is a full f2.8 all the way across the focal range, and it is optically stabilized. The other option that I was looking at was the Tamron 17-50 f2.8 VC, and the VC is their version of optical stabilization. Stands for vibration control. The main reason I ended up ruling that out is the VC doesn't work, which I should have guessed, given that the VC version was not listed on the official list of compatible cameras with the Viltrox, but the non-VC version was, so I naively thought, well, maybe they just forgot to put it on there. But no, they did not. The VC doesn't work. However, the Sigma optical stabilization, that does work, and Canon's optical stabilization, or their IS, on the lenses that I've tested, also works. This is a Tamron 70-300. It's a piece of junk. I just put it on here because the Sigma that's on the camera right now is in use, and I actually already traded in the Tamron. Spoiler alert. Sorry, I'm scratching right here. I have sensory issues and this microphone's driving me crazy. So the 17-50 top out at around 35mm once you apply the focal reducer. So that's a big reason that I like to have both the adapter and the focal reducer, because with a 17-50, I can just throw on the regular adapter and that'll give me that 40-50 range that's best for portraits. One of my biggest issues when watching videos on the speed boosters is about the autofocus performance, because people generally mention, hey, the autofocus sucks, but they never mention how bad it sucks. Most of the times they just say, hey, I'm a videographer, I don't use that shit anyways, so it doesn't matter to me. As a hybrid shooter myself, it's a little bit important, even if I do just usually set the focus for video so that I don't get that constant focus breathing. So today I have the Sigma 70-50 f2.8 OS, and I have the Tamron 17-50 VC, and I wanted to do a test with continuous autofocus in order to sort of see how they can actually perform during video. Part of that is the sound, and you will hear that the Tamron is super loud, and the Sigma is also pretty loud, and it makes clicking sounds. However, if you're using a wireless microphone like this, it's still usable, while the Tamron I don't think is usable at all, and you will see that the continuous autofocus performance is nearly unusable. So that's ultimately why I ended up returning that lens. Luckily, neither of those is quite as bad as this one. The Tamron 70-300. It's on autofocus single. I don't know why it's even doing this. But as you can hear, this thing's pretty fucking loud with the continuous autofocus. Let's see. So, yeah, not the best. This, by the way, is the Lumix GH1. I'm going to be recording on the G100, which is why the optical stabilization is very important. because it doesn't have IBIS. So anyways, I'm gonna stop rambling. Let's go check out the lenses. What's up? I'm testing out the Sigma 17-50 HSM DX OS or whatever, combined with the Viltrox Speed Booster. I've got my phone here, which I'm looking at to monitor. One of the main things I wanted to look at was autofocus. So right now the Sigma is set to 17 millimeters, which I think is around more like 12 once you apply the 0.7. Hopefully that's right. We're at shutter speed 60, ISO 100. Got my little, it's just a 40 watt light with the China ball on it. But okay, so let's get close. How are we doing? Let's get farther. Farther back. Oh yeah, we're at f2. That was the main thing I wanted to say about the camera settings. And the lens by default is f2.8. So because we're at 17 or 12 millimeters, I don't expect there to be much background blur. But I have some stuff in the background in order to see, including some lights, to hopefully see some bokeh, if there is any. I also want to see if you can hear the clicking of the autofocus, because it's definitely audible. But right now I'm using the Rode Wireless Me, I believe. So we'll see if it picks it up. But all right, that is 17 mil. Now I want to set it to 35, because once you apply the speed booster settings, 35 is going to be probably, it should be around a 25 mil native lens, which I have the Lumix 25 millimeter f1.7 that I want to test and then, you know, compare. So this is at the 35 millimeter. Damn, I should probably adjust the tripod tilt. But yeah, let's check the autofocus. Let's get real close and intimate. I've done this before and I know it can. This lens can actually get super close. Well, it's trying. My hand is right on it. If I had a lens hood on, oh, right now it's focusing on this face. That's funny. But anyways, let's see. Let's come back. Come on, let's go. Let's go. Let's go. I believe in you, autofocus. There we go, finally. And then it lets me, that one set as like a secondary face. That's funny. So, okay, now I'll set it to all the way to 50, which should be about a 35 millimeter after the speed booster. There we go. I'm having to crouch down a little bit because it's angled down. There we go. There we go. Let's see if I leave and then pop back in. There we go. And then if I move up really quickly, I'm surprised it didn't do a very obvious pulse there. Boom. All right, cool. So that's autofocus performance. We're also in 4K, if I forgot to say that. In, damn, standard, usually I film in Cine V or Cine D, one of them, I don't know. But okay, cool, let's switch lenses. I'm gonna look at the 25 mil. So yeah. Okay, so this is the native 25 millimeter f1.7. I'm gonna get, yeah, currently it's set to 2.0, f2. So I might try to set, well, we can compare. All right, so that's f2.0. That is f1.7. Can you tell the difference? And the ISO is set to 100. So if there's an exposure difference, you should see it. Okay, so right now we're back at f2.0. That's the difference between 1.7 and 2.0, at least at this distance, which about 1.5 meters maybe. So I definitely can't reach. It's probably about 2 arm lengths maybe. Speaking of which, there you go. Let's test the autofocus. So I got close. Got far. It's still picking up on that face back there. But in my, how's my mic doing? In my experience, this 25mm is probably the best performing autofocus lens I have, including the 42.5, which I'm going to put on next. But yes, so that's 25mm. Here, I'll get out of the frame. Bam. Back in the frame. Okay. And then let's see how close we can get. Come on. Do your thing. There we go. There we go. And bam, that's only, I don't know, 6 inches away, maybe. Well, no. 8, 10 inches. Who fucking knows? If I try to manually focus, as in manually, as in override by tapping, I'm not getting anything. So that's about how close it gets. Also, I wanted to say that this camera has a crop on 4K, the Lumix G100. I wanted to do 4K in order to get the most details, in order to see sharpness and focus, pulse, breathing. But as a result, we do have a slight crop, which sort of interferes with our perception of the focal length. So, yeah. Okay, so this is the 42.5. Obviously, due to the, first of all, I'm crouching, but second of all, due to the focal length, I am much farther away from the camera, and my face is still taking up more of it. So this just goes to show, if I move a little bit closer, this is what I was saying with the autofocus not performing as well as the 25mm, in my experience. So one big benefit about these native lenses, even regardless of the autofocus performance itself, so even if it doesn't focus as quickly, as accurately, etc., they're silent or near silent. So, which is a big deal. Right now, you know, I'm using my Rode wireless mics, so hopefully the Sigma lens isn't as audible. So, see, I'll move back a little bit, but again, I'm running out of space to move back. This is f2.0, so if I get closer, let's try f1.7. That's f1.7. f2.0. f1.7. So you can see there is an exposure difference. In terms of background blur, oh, I almost just messed with the ISO. In terms of background blur, I'm not sure. It might be marginal, but definitely exposure-wise, there's a slight difference. Let me peek the tripod up, so that way we can actually see the LED lights, so we can get an idea of the bokeh. Let's see, can you see it there? Okay, I'm a little bit paranoid about this tripod. I've had several near catastrophes recently. Now it is too high, I believe, to see me, but we'll see. Let's see if I can get this out of focus sufficiently. Oops, sort of. not the way I meant for it to be. All right, focus on my hand. So there you go, that's pretty significant bokeh. And then let's see if it, ooh, there they go. Looks pretty smooth. I'm just looking at this VGA preview, but it seems to be having trouble focusing back on it. Like I'm selecting it and it's struggling. Whereas, let's see if I select a closet. There we go. Yeah, cool. So, okay, this is the Tamron 17-50. A few things to note. I am almost certain that the Tamron is wider than the Sigma 17-50. Don't know why. And for some reason, the Viltrox also reads the aperture as f1.9, which actually I think it doesn't always do that. So, oh yeah, it's for sure wider. Look, you can see my China ball. So that's very interesting. Let's check the autofocus. I also said before, this thing is super loud. It's also not changing its focus. Oh, there we go. So actually interesting, if it has to do like micro adjustments, it doesn't seem to be super loud. Well, first of all, right now it's not getting my face at all. It doesn't seem to be super loud, but it's once it, here, I'm gonna try to give it a little motivation here. Let's go. There we go. So once it pulses like that, then you can for sure hear it. So now I'm gonna zoom it in. So this is 35, so in theory this should be about equivalent to the 25 mil. That looks pretty damn good. Here this is, if I move closer, will it shift? Okay, so there it did it. If I move close, a little bit farther back. Yeah, I'm getting surprisingly little. So if I tap, wow, even when I tap, that's unfortunate. So, okay, let's maximize it all the way to what it says is 50. So there we go, it focused there, definitely. If I move closer, not focusing. Let's go back. Okay, I'm not sure how accurate that is. I'll have to see it because this VGA preview is not that great. Okay, so it did it there. Oh yeah, I'll go out of the scene. It's actually trying to grab focus on one of the pictures in the back. There you go. Okay. Back on the scene. Close enough, I guess. That was an interesting sound. So, okay, I'm interested if we set it to manual. Let's see what our minimum focus is. Whoops, literally touched the lens. So yeah, it's about here. This is where I'm getting focus peaking, lighting up. So this is probably 6 inches away, to completely honest. That is super close. So the fact that the autofocus is not catching that is concerning. Let's put it back on auto. I'm probably gonna take a selfie with this and see. Oh, that's right. I wanted to test the bokeh. Okay, at least right there. Boom, boom. This is my photography little travel tripod because I tried using my big one and the Arca Swiss just is too thin that sometimes it'll fall off. Okay, so anyways, we're kind of focused on my hands. Not really, but shit. Come on. Damn, not gonna lie, this is really annoying. Oh, 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 oh. Come on. Nope, okay. Yeah, so as is, unfortunately, I think the Tamron is pretty unusable. Again, it's unfortunate. The zoom is also so difficult to do, but the focus ring is better than the Sigma, in my opinion. The Sigma quarter turn, for sure. Again, let's try a face track, or face focus. Okay, whatever, it doesn't, yeah, I give up. So, okay, at this point, you may be wondering what my conclusions are. So, I think some of them are relatively obvious. Number one, the Tamron, unfortunately, is just unusable in terms of autofocus. The speed and accuracy is just non-existent, but then also it's so loud when it does work that it can actually be picked up on both wireless microphones and using speech enhancement or noise reduction. So that is just sort of ruled out, and it's made worse by the fact that the image stabilization does not work. So again, I don't think this is on Viltrox necessarily because it's not in their list of compatible lenses. I would think that the 17 to 50s would be relatively similar in terms of their autofocus, but I think I've read online that the lenses themselves are just entirely different. So the supported one without the image stabilization may actually work totally fine. I haven't tried it, so do what you will with that information. Okay, so number two, for the Sigma, I think that in a pinch, the continuous autofocus may actually work. It is noisy and you will want to be using a wireless microphone, and it's not as accurate as native lenses. I would say speed-wise, the Sigma is under the 25mm, but at least as good or a little better than the 42.5. However, both of the native lenses are better in terms of accuracy. The Sigma will focus either just a little bit short or just a little bit far, and in photo mode, this is important if you take photographs, you only want to use autofocus single, because if you use autofocus flexible or autofocus continuous and you try to lock onto an object, it'll just constantly pulse, bringing it in and out of focus. And in my experience, at least 1 out of 2 times, your image will be out of focus. So if you use autofocus single, it's not that big of an issue. I don't think you're going to be able to get a wide angle that's around a 12mm this fast in any sort of related price range, at least as far as I know, let alone an image stabilized one. A 12mm at f2 that's image stabilized, I don't think is an option on Micro Four Thirds. I may be wrong, and if it is, it's probably pretty niche. However, once you're around that 25 zone, it can get a little more complicated. If you're willing to go for primes, then I think you can match it. However, if you're looking for that versatility, then the zoom is definitely an option. Another big thing that I didn't mention is the size. The Sigma, when combined with the Speed Booster, it's chunky, especially compared to the 42.5mm. It's no contest. Let me see if I have it right here. The 42.5 is this big. The Viltrox alone are that big. Maybe it's a little greater than half the width, just the Speed Booster alone. And then you throw on top the lens that's at least this big. then it's way larger and it's way fatter. But that's to be expected with the fast zoom. And even for somewhat native lenses, getting a fast aperture like this, even I think the Lumix 10-25 is probably, their newer 10-25 f1.7 is probably closer to this size and weight anyways. So that is something to consider. And that 10-25 f1.7 is way more expensive. I'll also throw in that I got this Viltrox speed booster on eBay for 140 bucks, and then I got this adapter for 70 bucks used. If you get them new on Amazon, I think it's like 170, 140 for the adapter alone, and then like 250 for the speed booster. So at that price range, much harder to justify, but if you get it used or on eBay, I think the adapter was still brand new. It's just if you're willing to wait a little bit longer. Same thing on like AliExpress. So I don't know if I also mentioned, but the adapter is also a very useful investment, especially so like I just ordered a nifty 50 Canon 50mm f1.8. So if I carry both the speed booster, that can give me a 35mm f1.2, f1.3. But then if I just use the adapter as well, I can get a 50mm f1.8, which is around the same as that 42.5, but just with a little bit more focal length, because a 35mm, if you're taking portraits, a 35mm would be better for probably full body shots, but the 42.5 is really where you want to be for those tighter portraits. But you get more versatility by owning both, and that f1.8 is still obviously completely usable. So, you know, something to keep in mind. So the investment of, you can get both the adapter and the speed booster for about the same price as just getting the speed booster new if you go on eBay. So, yeah. Also, I forgot to say, the firmware is updated to the newest versions on both my speed booster and the adapter. I don't think the optical stabilization actually worked with the firmware version that the adapter and speed booster came on, so you're going to want to upgrade that. It's not a hard process. You just need a USB cable and go on their website, click and drag a file, and then it updates itself, closes, and you're done. So that is important to note. Whoa, my phone just fell. So finally, I'm going to give a test. I'm going to do a talking head style video like this, but I'm going to turn on continuous autofocus. Right now the Sigma is on the camera. So I'm going to show you how usable it is. I'm standing arm length away, so I can touch the lens from right here. This is how far away. I'm going to switch to continuous autofocus, and we will see how loud it is. I'll stop the recording. So, okay, this is on autofocus continuous on face detect. Obviously, if you know things about this camera, we're also on 4K, so autofocus performance is best in 1080p and on single point. So right now I'm doing neither of those things. I'm in 4K and on face detect. This is the default autofocus settings for video. Also forgot to mention that in the rest of the video. So I'm going to shut up for a moment and we can see if we can hear it. Just looking at the audio levels, I think it is definitely audible, especially if I hold it closer. Yeah, I mean, if I hold it closer, it would 100% be audible. But from back here, when I'm talking without silence, you can sort of judge for yourself. And then, of course, once I turn on Adobe's enhanced speech, which obviously uses AI and stuff now, it's very fancy, then I doubt that you'll be able to hear it. But it's just something to keep in mind. Let's sort of see how well it keeps me in focus. I'm not keeping track on my phone, so I don't actually know if it's going to work. So, because this is about what you would probably be doing in an actual like talking head video. So more importantly, and this is a problem I see on the native lens also, is that even when you're standing still, it'll constantly be sort of bringing you in and out, doing a little bit of focus breathing, which can prevent you from getting a sharp image. So I had it set on manual focus when we started, actually setting the lens to autofocus and the camera to manual focus, and then you load up the app. There's a setting to manually go click, 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 and shift it closer and farther, which is great. And then you can use focus peaking and see exactly what it's focusing on, which lets you hone directly on like eyes. You can even get focus peaking around your iris, at least if you have beautiful blue eyes like myself. So this, I think no matter what, it's not going to be able to hold you in as sharp of a picture, both just because of accuracy, but then also it's going to constantly be adjusting. Like, I can hear right now that it's still making micro adjustments when it's probably not needed. And of course, when you're using faster apertures, it's going to be more difficult to hold the subject in focus. So it's going to make more sense that it's going to be constantly clicking away. But you'll see at the first video that I shot for this conclusion, which was set on manual focus, that it's not going to be doing that. So again, I'll just leave it silent for a moment. Okay, so yeah, well, thank you for watching. I'll be interested to see how this last part of the video held up. I will also say, so I usually use different autofocus settings in this anyways. There's a way to have it less sensitive so that it tries to shift a lot less. You set it to be like to hold on the subject more in the sensitivity, and then you can also adjust the speed, both making it faster and slower. So of course, faster you risk having more obvious pulses, slower you risk being out of focus for longer amounts of time. Higher sensitive you risk false positives. Whereas locking on the subject more and lower speed, you are probably going to be more in focus, but when you move closer and you move farther away, it's obviously going to be slower to catch up to you. And if you have low sensitivity, it may not catch you at all. So it's just a balancing act. But again, for the sake of this video, I have it set to the default video settings, just so you can sort of see what you can expect. But yeah, thank you for watching.